What's going on, everybody? This is D. Eric Fields. Welcome to the Unchurch'D podcast. This podcast talks about hot topics that the church is afraid to talk about, that the unchurched talk about all the time. And we're here to expose some of those topics. I'm sitting with some lovely guests today, and I'm really excited about this because they're going to help me make this topic a little bit hotter. First off, we have my lovely, beautiful wife with me. She's the fragrance of the world for me. Come on, everybody. Welcome, Sister Hallie Fields. Amen. She's the saved one on the real saved one on here, for real. Then we have next to her, we have the wonderful, the one and only. He is our brother and our friend, Mr. Quantel Raydale Johnson. All right, yeah. He is going to help us bring another perspective from a man's perspective, because I don't want to be on here by myself doing it. And then next to me, I have the feisty and the fierce Sister Sunny Carney. Amen. Praise the Lord. Everybody clap your hands for her. So we're going to be talking today about a very critical topic. And I think it's something that the unchurched always talk about. And I feel like we need to bring some light to it. And I want to just start it off by saying this. Whenever I talk to somebody who doesn't go to church, whenever I discuss with somebody who is not a part of the church, the first thing that they always say is, I do not go to church because people in church always stab you in the back. People in church always do you wrong. People in church are never being real with you. And so today's topic is simply snaked. My grandmother used to coin this phrase for me, and I think that it is very critical. I said it a little bit earlier off the scene, but I think it's something we need to start off with. I said when looking for something, I said if it was a snake, it would have bit me, because snakes are known for biting you if you don't see them. And that's what we see in friendships, relationships, anything in this world. Matter of fact, even statistics tell you that 8 out of 10 people in America have at least one friend. And those who don't have friends, the reason why they can't find a friend is because they're most likely to be betrayed. So before we start off, I want each of you to really kind of help me with this, because I think the reason why people end up in betrayal situations or situations of betrayal is because we really don't know what being snaked is all about. We really don't know what being betrayed is all about. So from your own perspective, all of us have grown up in a church setting, and we have gone and come back and done all of our things, but now we're back in church. So from your own perspective, what is it? What is being betrayed? What is being snaked? Who wants to start us? Go. All right, Ray Dale's gonna start it. Go ahead, Ray Dale.
This is pressure, man. What's the question?
Wow, are you serious? What is being betrayed? What in your own instance, in your own perspective, what is betrayal? What does betrayal look like to you? Because it's different for everybody. I mean, when I think about my own friendships, when I think about my own, there are some things that if somebody do to me, I'll just throw it off, be like, oh, it ain't nothing. I charge it to their head and not their heart. But then there's other things that I'm like, that is simply betrayal. So in your own perspective, in relationships, what is being snaked?
To me, I feel like, first of all, you have to have a certain level of trust, a certain level of love with someone to first even get that sense of betrayal.
Right.
There has to be a certain level of understanding that should have been said or was supposed to be said that obviously has been crossed or broken or abused. Mm-hmm. In most cases, that's what it is. It's a level of trust that's being abused, I feel like.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. Go ahead, Sister Hallie.
I'll just say that betrayal is knowing a very sensitive part of your friend and still going beyond that boundary and hurting them in a way that you already knew that they would be hurt.
Most definitely.
I think for me, betrayal is trusting somebody that has made themselves seem comfortable and secure to you, and then allowing that person to feel that comfortability and then going against that trust kind of image that you portray to yourself.
Most definitely. I think for me, trust is the main part that we're trying to build in a relationship or in a friendship. And that is something that has to happen, within a time frame. I mean, you don't just walk into a friendship and to think you just going to get my trust.
Right.
That's something you got to earn. That's something that has to be worked for. Yeah, and it has to come naturally. It can't be forced, And so I think my biggest thing was letting people in too soon, and then not understanding that because I let them in so soon, they would eventually betray me. I trusted them beyond what they could understand. So that is why they betrayed me. But one of the craziest things that I think is even crazier is that friends will be the first ones to betray. And I mean, I'm not just talking about in church. I'm talking about out of church. I'm talking about everywhere. You get betrayal, whether it be them, wanting to, envy you, jealous of you, wanting to be like you or something like that. There's always some type of friendship and that you will experience. I mean, we the church, so we can say even Jesus experienced that, that betrayal that you feel and just being snaked. Like a snake I think we need to understand a snake isn't just being stabbed in the back. It's a sneaky. It's slithering. It's a plan behind the scenes that is something that I think is crazy. For me, one of the instances I felt, and then I'm going to let y'all take it because this is about to be the crazy part right here. For me, an instance I seen in my own personal life of being snaked was trusting someone with my own business idea, trusting them with my own idea that I wanted to have and a dream that I have, and then turning around and seeing them benefit and prosper off of something I told them in private, and they off of my dream, and then they ended up trying to do it like it was their own. That was something that hurt. That was a snake move because I'm sitting there telling you what I want to do in secret, and you go out and try to give it a new name, give it different colors, but act like you didn't get that concept from me. And being snake don't just happen in friendship; it happen in business, church, club, the streets, everywhere. What's some instances y'all been snaked in before without saying no names? Because we don't want to be fighting out here in Jesus' name.
Let First Lady have it because she got a mouthful.
She might take.
She gonna start it off. She gonna start it off right.
So many times in my life, 70 times 7 have I been betrayed and snaked. But I will say that for me, it's really kind of difficult to really maneuver through the betrayals because it's like, okay, your First Lady, these people are connected to the church, these people are connected to other people that you love. One instance that I felt like was the most betrayal was, not necessarily truly confiding in someone concerning my relationship, but at the same time, they obviously wanted the relationship too.
Did you say they wanted the relationship too?
I'm not saying no names though. But just you can say the smallest thing like, okay, I'm upset at my man today. And I just feel like as a woman or as a man, you're gonna be open with your friends about, whatever the case may be. But the whole time I'm telling you I'm mad at him, you sliding in his DM. But nevertheless, that was one instance. It has happened multiple times.
Wow.
But that has been the biggest issue to me. And although it comes off as very small and minute, that thing grows after it just goes from person to person. It's like a little spirit just jumps on person to person. But nevertheless, yeah, that's.
But I mean, that's crazy though because. Though that's personal for us, and that's a topic for a couple of weeks from now. We'll talk about that later on the Unchurch'D podcast. But you'll see that in relational friendships, especially when if you're a woman and you got a man, or if you're a man and you got a chick, where friends or people who are watching or people who are around will use that as a weakness to try to slither their way in. And that's what we don't understand. I mean, and I think that we've all experienced that in some way, shape, or form. That's why we got to be so careful about what we say about our personal stuff and, for real.
Because we don't necessarily mean it like that.
Right.
That doesn't mean that other person is not going to take it like that's what you really mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you put on Facebook, what you put on Twitter, what you put on Instagram, they going to like it, they going to heart it, they going to share it, they going to say, girl, you show is talking. All the while, they know you talking about your man because it leaves you vulnerable. And snakes look for vulnerability. That's right. That's right.
But what kind of bedazzles my mind all the time is being snake doesn't just come from friends. Like in my instance, I can relate to that, but mine wasn't a friend. Mine was family. So cousins coming after your man. Cousins sliding in the DMs. Like, dang, girl. Do you hear? No, for real. And there's been a couple instances where we had to. I wanted to meet up at grandma's house, but I'm going to sip my tea on that one.
No, but ain't that? I mean, it goes from every area where you gotta be careful because snakes slither in any area. I mean, they can be friends, family, whoever they can be. I mean, they come in all shapes, forms, and fashions. I mean, you just gotta prepare yourself for that. Right. And it's deceptive. You know, what I've learned about snakes is this. Snakes will act like they're not snakes. They will try to deceive, manipulate, try to make you believe they're not what they actually are. And all the while, they actually have that in them. But it's a snake's job to be deceptive. They're not supposed to show their true colors.
And I was going to ask, like, you know, who's to say, do they really think that they're not a snake? Like, you know, do they really think that, you know, like I'm just being myself, or like I'm really intentionally, like, yeah, you are, but it's like, okay, for some instances, it's like, okay, do you really realize what you're doing?
I don't feel like a lot of people
I don't
know.
think so
I don't
either.
feel like they know
I don't
that.
think so either.
On the other side, I think people know. They just don't care. Some people just don't care.
Very true.
What I think is snakes reproduce snakes. When you have been bitten by a snake, that venom is now in your blood. So whatever you've been bitten by, you now have to transform into without knowing it. The abused eventually becomes the abuser. The person who's been hurt eventually hurts somebody else. The person who snakes eventually snakes somebody else. And so, you know, especially when it comes to relationships, I mean, you don't know who's trying to slither into your bedroom. Now, this is what we need to understand, though it does not always come from people from the outside to try to separate. Sometimes it's people that we end up being with that ends up being snakes. You know, we end up getting in a bed with snakes. We end up going on dates with snakes. We end up going and getting married to snakes, not even realizing what they really are. And so you gotta be so watchful to know where their bite is. Like, or have you been bitten by a snake? Because if you have been, then you'll eventually snake me like they have done you in the past. And so that's something that I think that we have to really be sure to understand before we hop in the bed with somebody, before we go on dates with somebody, before we say, this is my ride or die, or this is the person I'm gonna be with, because they might end up trying to bite you like they've been bitten before. Yeah. So, Quan, what's from a man's standpoint of view? I mean, it's different for men and women, but and we'll talk about that in a second, but from a man's standpoint of view, I mean, women, they are really bitten from relational, you know, from boyfriend, girlfriend. But what are some men, what are some bites you've experienced in your life from just being a man?
Like every time I experienced getting snake, I feel like it had to do with like stuff that was like principle based, rather like, I guess, emotional, I guess I can say. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like for people to question my character or my values or anything. So, like, I had this friend, and I was chilling over his house one day, and, like, some stuff that came up missing. And, like, instead of asking me about it, he just automatically accused me, like, of taking it. And so I'm like, first of all, like, we can't even be adults and have a conversation about this. Like, exactly. We're supposed to be like, this is my best friend. Like, you're supposed to know me better than this. Mm-hmm. Like, you're supposed to know my character, know what I can and can't do. Like, but that just goes back to, like, on the flip side, he probably was snaked before, so he doesn't know. Like, so I don't know. It's kind of.
For me, it's always hard for us as men, especially because we know who we are. We're trying to express who we are. We're trying to work to get trusted. We're trying to work to be your friend. We're trying to work to be there for you. And then when we're accused of being something, because we already as black men live a life of being accused of everything anyway. So then when we get around other people who we love, we trust, we think trust us, and you accusing me like the people out there are accusing me of being a snake. Now, I know I ain't no snake. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know my values and I know what I'm really about. So, you know, what are you saying? And then I hate to really try to express myself about that. Like, I don't want to explain that my intentions wasn't I don't want to explain I'm not a thief. I'm not even.
To me, like, it's never ending. Like, once I feel like I have to explain that, then I feel like I'm gonna have to keep on explaining that. Mm-hmm. So when I'm placed in that position, I'm just gonna cut you off and just not fool with you no more. Right. That's just it.
Which brings me to the next thing. I mean, how do you know? I mean, we all are, you know, churched, unchurched a little bit, you know. So where we know what the Bible says about forgiving and, you know, all of that stuff like that. 7 times 70. But we know that when you forgive, that doesn't mean you got to get back with. So what level, what stage, where are you at where you got to say enough is enough? I can't be around you no more. Is it one stab in the back? Is it more? Or do you give people chances, or do you just say, you know what, forget this, it's done?
So I'm the type of person, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt.
You do. You do.
Like, no matter
grace
what.
and more
So,
grace.
Like, if you wrong me once, then okay, like, it doesn't change much. It just really opens my eye, like, to be more watchful around you, to be more leery around you. But if you do it again, then that's when, like, I'm done. Like, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell y'all, old cousin done had about 3 chances. And after that 3rd chance, baby, it's a wrap. I love you because God told me that I had to love you, but
Right.
you ain't around me no more.
Right.
You ain't about to slither around this way.
No. Right. What you think?
I think it definitely depends on the level of the offense.
Okay.
I feel like not just me, but I feel like anybody, if it's pertaining marital anything, you only get one chance and that's over. But I think that if it's concerning, like, okay, you had an attitude today and you said some stuff about me, we know that's natural. We're gonna say stuff about each other. We're friends. We may not really mean it. We're mad, whatever. We can be cool. That's whatever. Now, if you just keep on going on and on and on about it, then we might have to come to a level ground that this just ain't that. But, it just depends on the level of the offense and what your heart can really carry, because you can say that you're giving people chance after chance after chance, but if it's still clouded in your heart and it's just building up in your heart, you're not really giving them a chance. You're really you're just doing it just because it sounds good that, okay, they did this to me. Because some people just want to have one up on you. Yeah, I forgave them for doing this. Y'all see, they still around me. People do that. People do that just to throw it in other people's faces. So I feel like it's definitely different for every person. You just have to make sure that your heart is really right for that.
Go ahead, Quan. You had something to say.
Nah, that's a good answer because her cutoff game is strong.
I'm weak.
I mean, we always play about that, but for real, I think that is something that is real, though. You have to have a strong cutoff game, but then you have to have strong discernment on when it is necessary and when it's not, So sometimes it's not necessary. If you go through friendship after friendship after friendship after friendship over and over again, eventually I'm gonna start thinking something wrong with you. If you got new friends every 6 months, I mean, baby, something wrong with you at the end of the day. So, and that's just the truth of the matter. And I think that's something that's so critical. You got to be able to cut them off, but then you also got to know when to discern to say you deserve another chance, and this is something I'm willing to give you another chance on.
Be genuine about it.
Right, and be genuine about it. And when you're genuine about it, you don't hold it over your head, like y'all said. You let it go, you let it be what it is, and then after that, it's done. And so, but let's shift it a little bit, and we're gonna self-inflict a little bit because we all church goers. Quantel, for y'all to know, he's a minister, first lady, pastor, a youth director. What are instances now? And I'm saying all of this for those of you who listening to us or viewing us. All of us have strayed away and came back. Can we say amen?
Amen.
See, I told y'all what I tell y'all. Maybe not Sister Howley. Maybe not First Lady. But we all have had our days. And she's not playing, for real. I've been with her for 8 years. And
I was a part of the 99. They were the ones.
well, in long story short, we all had our days, okay? And we've all, if not, we've experienced stuff from the outside in. And so, what are some snaked situations that you've seen or personally encountered in church? Now, that's something that's big because
Ooh, Lord.
the church is supposed to be the hospital. It's the secret place, it's the place of worship. But when you go there, you get snaked. What are some personal things that have happened that you like, that shouldn't be happening in church? You know what I'm saying? Like, if all costs, that should not be happening. Let's be real. Most people are fighting a fight because what they did not think would happen in church is happening in church now. So what are some snake situations? Who do you see it from the most? I'll start off first. I see snakes more in the pulpit than I see anywhere.
Well,
Now I'll say that, and I'm going to let y'all say y'all point of views as well, but I'm a pastor, so I know. When you get a level of power, when you get so much power, you can be certain things to certain people at certain times. And you can be able to deceive and manipulate that and cover it up with your own personal title.
Yeah.
And so I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And where even for me, I've had to be careful for myself. If you don't have power, this is another conversation for another day. But if you don't have power, you don't know what it means to have power. You don't know the responsibility. You don't know what it comes with. You don't know the cost. You don't know the temptations. You don't know the character it takes or the integrity it takes to deal with that. And so most pastors don't have the character to be able to do it. Now, we all going to make mistakes. We all going to fall. We all going to fail. We'll talk about that at a later date as well. But pastoring, I've seen slithering. And when I say snakes, I mean intentionality, constant. This is what they are and this is what they do. Preach a sermon and then behind the closed doors know that they are a wreck and a mess. And that's where I've seen it the most. Where have y'all seen in the church that you've heard, whether it be your friends, you personally, what have y'all experienced?
I think for me it's just in members, I guess the members of the church, really just paying attention to who's connected to who, and then people trying to slither in and disconnect certain, I guess, friendship, not really friendships, but just connections with people in the church leadership, maybe.
Right.
So that's the standpoint from me.
Yeah, most definitely, because people will come in if they see something they like. They'll come in and try to say, "Let me, get into this," and try to see if I can, see if I can get into that. What y'all think?
Yep.
I agree with the pulpit. I also think.
Go ahead.
Oh Lord, I don't know if this gonna be good or crazy.
I also think musicians.
Okay, yeah, most definitely.
Primarily.
Look, our videographer, who's our musician as well, is like,
musician,
is you
man,
talking
what?
about?
No, but I feel like in today's generation, I feel like musicians, they're just there for the check. Mm-hmm. So it's easier to get all this mess and get involved in all these different things and get things, stirred within the church. Yeah. So that's why I say musicians.
Most definitely.
I've seen it in absolutely every area of the church. But I'll just touch on the fact that those that are dating, spiritual leadership, going outside of the ministry to discuss things that are happening in the ministry. I feel like that's one of the biggest snake moves that a person that is walking next to somebody in ministry can do. You're relying on these people to be there for you and back you up, but you're really tearing the church apart. Right. So I've literally heard people myself tell me that they did not come to specific churches, not just our church, but specific churches because of what that specific person told them, because we know that if it's coming from one of those type of people, it's all facts. Right. Like, why would she have to lie? Or why would he have to lie? If he or she is with that person in spiritual leadership. So I think that that's one of the biggest snake moves that I've seen. Just them going outside of church walls and discussing church business, because everybody can't handle that. Right. And you have to remember that these are souls we're trying to bring in. And if you bringing them the dirt,
you disinfecting them.
Right, yeah. And I think that's the craziest thing, whether it comes from church, business. When you have a partner in business or anything, we are trying to build this up together. Mm-hmm. And I always say this consistently. No business, whether it be the church or outside, will pay you. Musicians, ministers' wives, leadership, no business will pay you, let you talk bad about them and keep giving you a check over and over again while you keep on tearing the business apart.
Just
we got to stop giving people liberty to poke holes in our boat. If we trying to go somewhere, if we trying to do something and you on the boat poking holes in it, you got to get off the boat. Eventually in our lives, we got to have a zero tolerance for self-infliction. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you bite what's on the outside, don't bite what's on the inside. Don't mess up what's going on the inside. But that's what we got to understand, especially as the church. People who are unchurched don't go to church. I say this consistently. They don't want the church to look like where they came from.
Exactly.
if the church starts looking like the streets or where they came from or the hurt or the pain they came, they're not going to stay. Why am I going to come and commit myself Sunday after Sunday, Wednesday after Wednesday to a place that reminds me of exactly what? And the crazy part about it is membership actually think it's the pastor. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, people don't come back to church because the pews. The pews are judgmental. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because we always, and I hear people who don't go to church, well, the pastors is manipulating. But you don't know how many men manipulate women leadership and that are coming to church. You don't know how many people that are women and come to church and manipulate men leadership. It just the way it slithers from the top down. It comes from the bottom up as well. So, that's something that I think is so critical, especially with what it is we're doing, especially with this Unchurch'd. We got to understand the church has to be something different. It has to be completely different. It has to look different, sound different, be different, and it cannot be snake like the world is. They're going to experience that out in the world, but we shouldn't experience that in here. It can't be the same. It always has to be different eventually when you look at it. So, I think that kind of shifts us into another conversation. And I know we already talked about, now, Hallie is not the backslider, definitely, but she grew up in the hood. In the hood, amen. I don't like to say it because every time I say it, I get smacked for saying she grew up in the, or she try to make fun of me and say I didn't grow up in the hood, okay? But and I'm honestly, this won't be a conversation for me because I won't be able to even answer this properly. But in the streets, in the unchurched areas, what are some similarities that you see vice versa in the church and in the streets, in the church and the street? What are some of those continual things that people are just always doing the same things? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like you can't get away from it. And I think that I'm saying this because I think people always say the church is this, the church is that, but you'll get it if you go to the club. You'll get it if you go to the bar, if you go to the Westport, if you go to the plaza, if you go anywhere, you'll get the same thing. So what are some of those congruent things that are the same that you see,
I mean, it's more so just the basics, the gossip, the drama, that's just stuff that's inevitable sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's what it is for me.
I would say competition.
Oh, that's good.
People coming right in, trying to get to the top. So,
like put in some work.
Yeah, like you just
be selfless first.
Right.
You've been saved for 5 minutes. You preach. You think you're the pastor of the church. You're not. So just wait. And then they think like you're trying to like bash them or belittle them. It's just like it's levels to this. Like you can't just come like in the streets. I don't know how they really work their way up to the top. I don't know if you gotta kill a few people. I don't know what you gotta do.
Mighty God.
I wasn't in the streets. I lived in the hood, but I was not a part of the shenanigans. Like I ain't been to no clubs or no. I can't tell you what the clubs was like. But what I can say is just the competition thing, because I've seen even men come to our church from the streets, and I see that they try to challenge.
I think that's jealousy too.
Yeah.
But that's because they're used to being the kingpin in the streets. But this is a whole different game in the church. Like, just because you were popping and popular in the club, don't mean when you come to the church, you got to do the same thing or do the same thing to work your way up to the top.
Right.
It's levels to it, and you have to come with a different grace when it comes to church.
What you say about that jealousy part?
I'm just saying it also goes into kind of what she's talking about. Like, if you think about in the streets, it's a lot of jealousy, especially in Kansas City, even when it comes to not just like the drug life of the streets, but just like artists. You see when people posting on social media, we don't have a lot of support because it's jealousy, because people hate on us because of this and that. So I think something that's similar with just the church world also is jealousy. People come in, they see other people rising up to where they would like to be, but because they're not, then it's a jealousy issue, then it's a I don't like you issue, then it's a drama issue, a gossip issue, and it turns into
and I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because jealousy kind of drives being a snake. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing more that makes you want to snake somebody than your jealousy of what. But you know, people don't really know where you come from to get to where you are. You know, so I think that you see jealousy in places that are crazy. Like how you jealous over social media? You know what I'm saying?
Me.
Like you
Tell
don't, like
me what you see behind this picture that makes you jealous.
Like, you jealous of a relationship or a business or an artist or anything over social media. Like, that's the wackest thing I've ever heard in my life.
For being jealous for over something that somebody worked for.
Right.
Put the work in. You can have it too.
You can do it too.
Right, and jealousy is so. I mean, it's so crazy because you got to be careful about how you even nowadays. You can't even properly express, and that's why I'm very. That's why I'm very, very careful about posting what I do to people or saying what I'm about to do, or very careful about who I tell what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And I make the mistake all the time, and I be wondering why they mad at me. And I didn't ran my mouth and told them I'm getting ready to do this. I'm coming up on this, and then I'm wondering why everybody mad at me, because everybody can't handle your success. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can't handle where you're going and what you're doing. So jealousy is definitely key. Quan, what you think? I mean, they didn't told it all.
Yeah, I just agree. I just feel like people in general, they just have a hard time just seeing other people doing good.
Right,
Like you
right.
can be doing good, you just have a hard time seeing somebody doing better than you. Like people in the streets, they don't like people that have better houses, better cars, more money.
Right.
People in the church, they don't like the people that sing, preach, more anointed. It's just
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
a competition thing.
Yeah.
Another thing I was gonna add was opportunists, because you got those in and out, which is just somebody that is just like a leech. They're only
Riding the
around you
coattails.
because
Speak
they
about
know
the
you're about to
leeches.
make it. They know that you are the pastor, the first lady, the youth director. You're the next to the pastor. They're gonna try to come in and get close to you, and it's just an opportunity for
You got
them
the
to
followers.
just say that I'm around these people.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything that you say is credible because you're around them.
Right.
And these are the main people that make up the lies, and the people
That's
believe
facts.
it
That
because
is
we
facts.
took a picture together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, most
That's true.
definitely. One thing I hate the most, one thing that makes my flesh crawl and it cringes my soul, and I want y'all to tell me when I say this word, Sonny already said it, but when I say this word, what comes to your mind automatically? Like what phrase comes to your mind when I say this word? Gossip. What automatically comes to your mind, Quan, when I say the word gossip from a man's perspective? Because nothing bothers me more than a gossiping man. Now, let me say what gossiping is for those of you who are listening that don't know what gossip is.
Child.
Gossip is not you telling the truth. See, if I say something about you and I'm willing to come to you and confront you about what I say, that is not gossiping. But if I say something to a group of people about you, come around you and act like I did not say none of that stuff, point number one. If I say something that I heard, if you ever say I heard, you're gossiping.
Gossip.
If you ever say I think, you're gossiping.
Gossip.
If you ever say I believe, I saw, you are gossiping. If you ever say any of those phrases, you are gossiping. Gossip is something that I can't stand a man that gossips. That bothers me more than anything. It gets on. Now people always, for me, I do my best not to gossip, and I'm gonna be honest. I do my best not to gossip. Now sometimes I do come to my wife and be like, "Girl, did you hear?" You know what I'm saying? Or I mean, I'm just being honest. But let me say this: I'm not going to be afraid to say this in front of somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And to tear, So Quan, what comes to your mind when you think of that from a man's perspective? When you think about that word gossip?
I don't know, man. It's just a headache. Like, I hate it too, and you're going to get me in trouble.
No, I want you
I
to.
literally just had a conversation with one of my older cousins, like, a few days ago. Like, 'cause I just don't understand the point of gossiping.
Right.
Like, I just don't understand it.
Right,
Like,
right.
first of all, you're sitting around here just discussing things and talking about stuff that you have no business about, not even trying to even find out the truth behind this stuff, and then you're going to spread it on to the next people. Like, and for a man, I just feel like, don't you got something better to do?
Right.
Be sitting around just gossiping?
Now, I don't want to be bashed. I don't want to get on this too hard, but what y'all think? I mean, as women, I know you married already, so I don't want you to tell nobody what you're looking for. But as women, in looking for a man or whatever, and how you're, not looking for a man, because I want the man to find the wife. I know that, okay? But in the approach of dating and being with a man, I mean, what do y'all take of a gossiping man? Like, I know women that, because if I have a daughter, I'm just going to, you can't date a man that is okay with God. Like, that's the snakiest stuff I've ever heard in my life. So what does that make you feel like? And then I want y'all to talk about what you think about from the women's perspective. But from a man, what is a gossiping man, what is that to a woman that is trying to get married, have kids, start businesses? What is that?
Well, first off, a man, I don't want a gossiping man. I can gossip to my friends.
Right, right.
Although that I mean, there's a thin line between venting and gossiping.
Right, absolutely.
So, in certain instances, yes, you can vent to your man, but you don't expect your man to be like, yeah, girl, and
right.
she was da 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 da, and he was da da. That's
right.
like a not being sexist. That's kind of a female thing,
right. Most
Although,
definitely.
I mean, like I said, to an extent, on the woman's side of it, it's kind of a little bit different because there's a line between venting and gossiping. But I just don't know how that would. I'm like, are you a girl? Are you my best friend?
Yeah, and I mean, Hallie knows we married, so she knows I can only go so far. I mean, there's only so much that I can take. And after a while, I'll be looking at her like, if you don't call Sonny or call your friends or call somebody and just talk to them about whatever you got to talk. And then I'll do this. If you're a man and you date, you know what I'm, yeah, oh, yeah, yep,
If anything happens, I'm calling my mom.
Right.
I'm calling her first, and we talk about everything. But nevertheless, I have an older brother, and just growing up around a boy, like, ain't nothing girly about him at all. Gossiping, I've never sat around my brother. We've never talked about girl stuff or talked about people. He used to tell me if I don't want him to do anything, don't tell him anything.
Right.
So actually, still to this day, I don't tell him anything because he's not the type that's want to sit down and talk about the situation. He's going to go handle the situation. So I think overall, just a man gossiping, it just really makes me think about sowing seeds of discord. And it really goes back to being jealous and envious, because a man that's walking around to other men or other women talking about another man, you're only doing that because this man has something that you don't have.
Right.
And clearly this man has put in a lot of work and has a lot of time that he's been putting in to be as great as he can be. But your time is being spent talking about people. That's why you don't have anything.
Right.
So I think that just hearing gossip, and when you hear from a man, I think it makes it more worse and just so distasteful. And it just really makes you just not even want to be around them, not even necessarily not date them, but who even just wants to be sitting in a room with a man that's just running his mouth.
Right.
Nobody.
Right. One of the things that I've seen, especially leading people, and being around people over 4 years of leading, is crazy, because one of the greatest number one things that always destroy friendships, especially between women, is gossip.
Yeah.
That's the number
That's
one
true.
thing. Like, I mean, there's other sides to things, but gossip, especially when you have not set boundaries in your friendships,
Absolutely.
as women, I think that for us as guys, we know how women are, and I always tell my guys, women are going to be women, and that just is what it is. And there's some things you just can't, there's no cure for that. And so there's certain, but between the friendships, I think that it almost becomes spiteful and hurtful when we can sit around and discuss, certain things and certain topics, as ladies, you all can. However, when it breaks off between the two, and now it becomes venom between each other, and now we're now discussing against each other, I think that is something that is very toxic and very hurtful. Hallie, what is some things, what do you think about when you think of women and gossip, and how that affects friendships and relationships? When it's all said and done, it does the same, but particularly for the woman, what does that do?
I think it just really goes back to tearing a woman down, like, just not having the heart for other women.
Right.
So I think that if you don't really have a heart for other women, your number one thing is going to be, I'm coming in to tear her down.
Wow.
And that you might not actually be saying it, but the fact that you are repeating information, or maybe you are sharing a thought that you may have had about that other woman, you're tearing that woman down. Because my thing is, if it's not beneficial, then you should not say it.
Right.
So if I'm saying it to this woman over here, the only way that it's right is if this woman is connected to that woman. If we are all connected in a circle, that's one thing. But if I'm going to my friend over here who's not connected to this friend over here, and I'm just having conversations all over the place about this friend, we friends over here,
Right.
it just starts to get messy. Now you got all these different communities of gossip about this one person that you come back to and gossip about these same different people. It's just communities of gossip, but I feel like it's one thing. Like I said earlier, it's inevitable for us to say little things about friends, whatever it happens. But I think that when a woman just has I don't know, it goes back to the heart.
Right.
I feel like.
You're both of you all are successful women in your 20s. Both of you all have businesses. Both of you all are, very confident in yourself. Sometimes I'm connected close to both of y'all, too confident sometimes. But, in that confidence, you may deal with a woman who may not have as much confidence as you, or who may be intimidated by you. And so, Sonny, what are some times where you've seen, where people are trying to tear you down, where unintentionally, you may come off to somebody like you're trying to be better than them. You always hear that. I mean, I'm sure y'all hear that.
Absolutely.
Hallie thinks she better than me, or Sonny thinks she better than everybody, or, whatever the case, she got this and that. What are some things you just in being snaked that you have seen people try to get close to you to tear that down? What are some instances, and how did that make you feel in that?
Really more so just like you said, just opportunist was
Right.
a word that we said before. So opportunist. So somebody trying to get close because they see that, but then in the midst of seeing that, being around me, you now see everything. So you see things beyond what social media or just anything,
You talking about
or
something.
just what anything could, you can see between that. So now you really see the real deal behind the scenes. And now that you see that, now you're getting, we talked about jealousy. Now you're, okay, well, you in this, and you just think you better than everybody because you got this, or you came up and you did this.
Right.
And so in those instances, certain people that I've had around me have used that, just being around me and collecting information about certain things, and then going back to other people knowing that they don't really have my best interest, and just kind of building that wall and kind of just tearing me down to other people so that they can use that against me.
Right.
Another thing that I kind of just want to talk about is just like the silence within gossip. So just being around, not that you're the one gossiping, but you're taking it in, you're hearing
That's
it.
powerful.
And so because you're hearing it, it's still gossip, because the stuff that you hear obviously will come out somewhere in the future when something happens. And that's another instance of somebody coming close to me and trying to tear me down through a business aspect of just being that silent gossiper.
Yeah, I think
That's crazy.
Quan, I think you can talk about being close to somebody and can't handle the different parts of them when you think you can. I think you can talk about that better than anybody, honestly.
I can't talk about it without saying names, though.
No, right? Please don't.
Well, you better say Adam,
Nope,
Eve, and Bell.
Say Jesus' name.
A, B, and C.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. I mean, it's because the reason why I say him is because he's the one of the closest to me as the leader, and so there are separate sides. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, for real, and this is an admittance that I have. Being married was something that taught me a lot, because my wife would always say, "Dear, they can't handle you doing this. They can't handle you doing that, because you're gonna have to preach to them." You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to be there in front of them. You're going to have to lead them. You're going to have to rebuke them. You have to correct them. And I'm like, they just, especially when it comes to men, I'm like, men are strong enough to at least be able to, differentiate the two. But I think that is the hardest thing that everybody needs to be careful, especially those of us who can be vulnerable. See, there are certain people, and I want everybody that's listening to me to understand this. There are certain people that are susceptible to always being bitten. There are a group of people in the world that will always be victims of being bit. Like, you are always the target. It's not because you're bad, not because something's wrong with you, but because of the influence, because of what you have on you, but because of what's in you. You know what I'm saying? It's you are going to be the one that they're always going to be slithering after, because you have something they want. So I'm talking to these people. I'm talking to you all because you have to realize what you have. You cannot allow everybody in your grasp. Yeah. I want to say something that's going to be crazy right now. Something that is crazy. If you want to defeat snakes, you have to cut your grass. If you don't cut down your grass, you will have snakes.
That is absolutely
you
true.
will have snakes. And in something that I think that is necessary for each of us, in the last few moments that we're going to have, I want each of you all to just kind of talk about, what do you do once you've been snaked? After you've been snaked, what is the next step? how do you get over that? Because you have the right to be upset, but you have now the responsibility to heal from that bite so that you don't put that venom on somebody else. So what are the steps? What do you do when you're about to be the one, when you've been bitten, or you're about to be the one bitten in our final close?
I think what you said, and it's so crazy because what you said, me and First Lady a long time ago literally had a conversation exactly like that, with just people trying to come and just do certain stuff. But she literally said the same thing. Yeah. You have to cut your grass. So in that season, since I first came to the church, it's always been friendships. I've always been connected to leeches, opportunists, bad friends, bad people. And so in the midst of that, getting over that and getting bitten, you have to cut your grass. So I had to go a season of just Sunny being by herself, Sunny learning stuff by herself, where nobody could be around me. So couldn't nobody gossip and say anything. Couldn't nobody say I was a part of anything. They couldn't have my name in their mouth because everybody's saying Sunny's by herself. So Sunny couldn't be in anything. However, after you cut your grass, you are by yourself. It's just really taking that time to heal, taking that time to learn, okay, I've been used to these bad friendships for so long, but what does God say a true friendship is? What does God say a friendship is in general? Who are my friends? How do I discern who's there for me, who's not? How do I detect what a good friend is? And then going through that, I think I've learned a lot. And then associating yourself, when you actually come through the part of discerning who is a good friend. Right. Experience that experience just allows you to develop things greater than what you are used to from your past.
Right. Go ahead.
I go last.
Oh my God.
You get on my nerve.
You are the one on the show.
You get on my nerve. You're not going last. I'm going last. I'm going like, you want to look and say, well, they didn't say everything, so I guess I don't
go
got
ahead.
Else to say. Go ahead, Hallie.
So I was just gonna say, goodness, I just threw me all the way off.
He always throws me off.
But I think that once you have been bitten, you have to analyze who you've been bitten by and be able to place them in the area of your life that they were supposed to be in the first place. And I say that because
snakeologist.
Right.
The snakeologist.
And
That's so funny.
I say that because I feel like snakes come in different types of ways, and although they are a snake, we may have mislabeled them as a friend, and they were never meant to be a friend in the first place. So that's why I say after they bite you, you really have to realize, okay, where were you supposed to be in my life in the first place? Because it's just a coincidence that the Lord placed you in my life. Wow. Now I need to figure out where he really wanted you to be. Wow. Because some of them were never supposed to be that close anyway to be able to bite you. Wow. So you can't just throw them away. Every snake, you can't throw them away. You can't cut off every snake. You just have to relabel them and put them in their place and show them by example who they are to you. So that may look like, okay, we're not rolling around in a car anymore. You're not taking me anywhere anymore. We're not going to the mall. We're not going to wherever we think is fun, bowling. We're not hanging out on a level as friends anymore. Now, okay, it may be you're sending them scriptures. You're just going a whole different route about it because maybe you were called to disciple them and not to be friends with them. And I think that's I think that's a big deal for all leaders in church as far as discipleship is concerned. When these people come in, it's not to be your friend. You have to stop thinking that these people are here to be my friend. The Lord is sending me some more friends. No, the Lord is sending you people so you can do a job. So really just analyze where they belong in your life and just really be the example that they need you to be.
Quan, you ready now? Yeah, I mean, they didn't just say everything. I mean,
I just think it really boils down to really actually learning the people that you're going to be involved with, whether it's relationships, dating, friendships, whatever. And then you have to really learn these people because, like you said, you don't want to place these people in a friendship category if they're not really your friends. So you really have to learn like exactly who they are, exactly like their character, their motives. You have to learn all that before you decide to get close with these people. And like if you do get in a predicament when you are snake, you are backstabbed or whatever, you have to really just suck it up and get over it. That's really the only advice I have. Like if you bit by a snake and it's a poisonous snake, you have to suck the poison out.
Wow.
You just have to suck it up and get it over it.
Wow.
Just
Like venom out. Ooh.
just really
That's really powerful.
Just take it for what it is and just really like see these people for what they are, who they are. Don't put nothing past these people after they snaked you, because if they snaked you once, they'll definitely snake you again. So just really be like watchful and just pay close attention to the people that you have around you.
Wow. Well, in my final address, I really say this. Talking to two people. Number one, my prayer really goes out to those who have been bitten and who have been snaked. Like, it don't feel good to be snaked. Like, it really don't. You know, that's a hard thing to go through. It's a heavy life to live, to know that you're vulnerable, but you're an influencer. You're a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You're a leader. You're a pastor. You're the oldest in your family, the only one in your family with some sense. You are susceptible to being bitten. And so it is really hard, but I really pray that those people who have experienced that really find an opportunity to get that healing. And then that they will be healed properly, so that when people come into their lives, they won't have a delusion. But snake venom is said to give you symptoms of delusion, that you will think you have something that you don't have, or that you will not have something and really have it. And when you have been snake bitten for so long and that venom has been running in your blood for so long, your relationships can never be trusted from that day forward until you get over that snake bite. And this is the powerful thing about being snake bitten. There is always an antidote for it. There is always something to give you so that you can be able to get over that snake bite. You've got to be watchful. That's the powerful thing about having snakes. You have to be watchful. Something that I know about snakes, they always shed skin.
Wow.
They always leave a trail.
That's a fact.
They always somewhere. They've left. If they did it to Quan, they gonna come and do it to me. If they did it to Hallie, they gonna go and do it to Sonny.
Yeah,
if they
factual.
did it to
That's
Sonny,
real.
they gonna do it to the next lady. And so snakes always leave their sheddings behind. You have to be able to watch them. Snakes can dress up. They can put ties on. They can wear suits. They can preach good. They can sing good. They can be in the pews. They can be on leadership teams. But their real truth is described when nobody else is in the room with them. That is when you learn when they are snakes. Let me talk to the snakes. All of you that are snakes, realize this, that if you are a snake, you're no longer just hurting them, but eventually you will hurt yourself. Wow. You will eventually find yourself in an environment that is not, that you are no longer needed in. Snakes this is the way snakes die. Snakes die by being in wrong environments. You will be placed in an environment that will eventually choke who you are as a snake. This is going to be the season for those that are watching us, that where snakes will be exposed. But you've got to be willing. They may be your friends. They may be your business partners. They may be your family. They may be in your relationship. They may be closest to you. You might even be married to a snake. But if they are a snake, you got to learn to cut the head of a snake and be willing to do it. Well, until next time, we appreciate everybody for joining us on the Unchurch'D podcast. Be sure to let your friends know. Share it. Let somebody know to come and listen to it. And we'll be back next week.